this save money mindset. So you can always use that money that you save for other things. And lastly, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask me them. I'll be happy to answer. And like Shamit said, I will be giving away 2 $25 Amazon gift cards to randomly selected people. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. Okay, so now we have 2 members of the bi-week. So our first one is Anupama from the Social Events Committee, and our second member of the bi-week is Parker from the Academic Events Committee. I've worked with both of them, and I know how hardworking and dedicated they are to bringing you guys first events. So congratulations, you guys. Are either of you here tonight? No. Well, you get a free t-shirt when you watch the recording.
Thank you.
All right, so if this is your first general meeting of the semester, here's an outline of our membership requirements. So your goal should be to earn 16 points by the end of the semester to remain an active member. And those 16 points are further broken down into 4 different categories. So general events, journal clubs, and service and special events. And if you're part of a research lab, you're welcome to fill out the form that's linked in the slide to earn 6 points towards research credit.
Burst will be holding its first profit share night of the semester on March 6th, so not this Saturday, but this next Saturday after at Chipotle from 5 to 9 p.m. So whenever you check out, make sure you mention Burst at checkout, but if you're ordering pickup online, there's this code right here. Make sure you enter that so Burst can get 33% of the profit. And we'll have like the flyer on social media. So if you need to reference back to the flyer later on, closer to the date, you guys can. So mark your calendars. Dinner on March 6th is going to be at Chipotle.
If you have, if you are graduating soon or graduating next fall, please sign up for the Certification of Excellence in Undergraduate Research. This will be applied to your transcript and is also an award that you can put on your resume. But if you apply here, you have to be within research for at least 4 semesters with the same professor or 3 semesters of research at Baylor, plus a summer research internship experience. And you have to have presented your research at a national or regional conference, including the ones that Burst hosts, such as RID and Ursa Scholars Week. If so, please apply so you can get your award.
Hi everyone, so this program is the VA Center of Excellence Research Program, and it's supported by undergrad research. You guys should definitely consider applying. So it's a year-long internship at the VA hospital in Waco. And there's going to be one last info session tomorrow at 1:30. So try to make it there, see if you can learn more about the program. And this flyer is also up on social media if you want to see more.
Okay, so internship. So you get 1 general point if you apply to a research internship for a max of 2 points. And just email a screenshot of your confirmation to baylorburst@gmail.com. You can get 1 or 2 points.
Here are the upcoming journal clubs for next week. There's also a journal club for tomorrow, and you can still sign up for it tonight.
So post-meeting social say is really fun. It's a Burst Trivia Jeopardy game, so y'all should definitely stop by. Then our first RCH was this week, but then make sure to look out for ones in the future through your weekly emails. Our Burst t-shirt pickup event will be on March 1st, 6:30 to 7:30 at the sub. So again, make sure to look out for the email for that and stop by. And then, yeah, we'll have a lot of events coming up, so just make sure to stay tuned.
All right, as you guys know, this is our special event for the semester, and all Burst members are required to attend to get that special events point. Burst members who present at the event could potentially earn up to 2 points, 1 for special events and 1 for another of their choosing. So definitely consider being a presenter if you haven't thought about it yet. And then here's a little bit of a sneak peek. Dr. Richard Myers is going to be our keynote speaker for the event. And he is well known for contributing to the sequencing in the Human Genome Project. So it's going to be a really, really good event. So be sure to mark your calendars and show up.
All right, so for academic events, we're really sorry that because of the snowstorm last week, we had to change up a lot of the events. So some people could make it and some couldn't, but we have rescheduled workshops such as the lab techniques and the LinkedIn workshop. So right now the lab techniques is set for Wednesday, March 3rd, and LinkedIn workshop, that's gonna be Friday, March 5th. So sorry I didn't put the 5th there, but yes. The next coding series workshop for Python programming language is going to be determined soon, but it is in the week of March 15th to 19th. So stay on the lookout for any Burst weekly emails and the social media platforms, and we'll definitely email you and update you all. And the lastly, bioinformatics info session will be hosted and guest hosted by one of our lovely officers, Tuba. And so she'll be talking about her major and parts of her research. And yeah, that's it.
All right, now it's time for our guest speaker. So tonight we'll be hearing from Dr. Kelli Hicks. Dr. Hicks graduated from Baylor in 2014 with a Bachelor in Science in Biochemistry and Latin. She also served as the second Burst president, as well as the first ever editor-in-chief of Scientia. After graduating medical school at the University of Washington, she is now an ENT resident at UNC, while on a research track with 2 years of dedicated research time. So welcome back, Dr. Hicks.
Thanks so much. I'm so impressed that you found out all that information about me because I did not give you any of that. So that's very impressive. I am going to go ahead and just share my screen. Okay, so kind of how I wanted to structure this, just so you guys know, I'm a super casual and laid back person. So if you at any point I say something that doesn't make sense or you don't understand, just absolutely unmute yourself and interrupt me. I think at first I'll give you a little bit of background about me and how I got to the place that I am and the role that research has played throughout my entire life, really. And then at the end, I just have some tips and pointers and some things that really helped me along the way. So I can't talk about me without talking about this beautiful state that I grew up in. I'm originally from Alaska. I grew up in Fairbanks, which is right in the middle. It's a pretty small town, about 60,000 people live there. It's one of the largest cities within the state, though. And in addition to just being one of the most beautiful places ever, I think I was just really struck the entire time that I lived there by the sense of community that you have while you're up there. If you're broken down on the side of the road, the next person who drives by will stop, help you fix your car, take you home, make you a warm meal, and all of a sudden you have a new best friend. People there just really care about everyone who is around them. And on the other side of the coin, while the people that are around you are very important, it's also a very sparsely populated state. And so those people become even more important in the fact that there's just not very many people who live around you. So then after I lived in Alaska, I did some semi-professional horseback riding down in Colorado. I lived there for a few years. And then I came to Baylor. As already mentioned, I had a BS in biochemistry, a minor in Latin. And I came to Baylor on both an academic and an athletic scholarship to ride horses on the D1 equestrian team. And while I was there, I met the two beautiful people who are in that lower left-hand corner, who to this day are two of my very closest friends. And we sat down one night during my sophomore year. It was like a Thursday evening around 11 p.m. And we were talking about how there's really not that sense of community for people who are interested in research or undergrads who are interested in research. And so that is how Burst was born. We worked for a while on the Constitution. We had our first event, which was super well attended, and that was that. We were in the running, and so that really is kind of how I was involved in all of that. And during my sophomore year, at the same time, this lower right-hand corner, you guys probably all know this from your bio class, is a C. elegans. And this was the type of research that I did during my sophomore year through my senior year. And I started in this lab. It's Dr. Myungu Lee's lab. To be honest, I don't even know if he still works at Baylor. But I came to this lab, full disclosure, not knowing very much about C. elegans, about working in the lab, about research in general. I just knew that I was excited and I wanted to be involved. For me, research is about making things better. It's how we improve things. And I felt like I don't know where to start. So I am just going to ask if I can be more involved. And I was very fortunate that while I was there, the PhD candidate really took me under her wing and really just taught me how to read a paper, how to properly use a very fancy microscope, how to design a project, how to troubleshoot when the project doesn't go as planned. And so it was really kind of the reconnection of having Burst, having that PhD candidate who really kind of solidified my Baylor community for me. So then after I was at Baylor, I went to medical school at the University of Washington, which is up in Seattle. I was part of the WWAMI program, which is an acronym that stands for Washington, Wyoming, Alaska, Montana, and Idaho. It's a special program where they basically set aside 20 seats for each person, or for people from each of those states. So we did our first year of medical school in our home state. And then for the second year, we came down to Seattle. And then during third and fourth year, we're kind of dispersed and you can do your medical school rotations in any state in that 5-state region. And so during my second year of medical school, is when I came down to Seattle, and I actually came down the summer before that. So in between my first and second year. And that is how I got connected with this lady who's kind of in the back, which is really sad, but she's kind of in the back. Her name is Dr. Shaloub, and she's a vascular surgeon. I went to medical school knowing that I wanted to do some kind of surgery. I wasn't sure what kind of surgeon I wanted to be, but I knew that I wanted to do surgery of some kind. So I cold emailed many surgeons at UW and said, hey, I'm a first year med student. I'm super interested in surgery. And I'm really interested in doing research as well. And I stumbled into one of the greatest mentors of my life. I also still talk to her on nearly a weekly basis. She really just is someone who took me under her wing and explained to me how things work. She never treated me like I was stupid. She never made me feel dumb for asking a question. And that was really important as I knew nothing about vascular surgery at all. And so this picture here is, during my second year, I then started a vascular surgery interest group while I was there because there was a lack of an interest group for vascular surgery in particular. And then during my third year of med school, I actually started all of my rotations with a ENT rotation, or a otolaryngology. And I was very lucky that one of the residents on the service she was very similar to me. She was very bubbly and she was very excited to engage medical students. And so we started talking and really bonded. And she said, you would actually really get along with this lady right here. This is Dr. Jenny Stone. And if you're really interested in research, you should consider a T32. And I had no idea what a T32 was. So I asked. And basically through the NIH, there are many different families of grants, and the T grants are the training grants. So a T32 is something you can have as either a medical student or as a resident, and they're through the department. So any application that you do for a T32 experience you'll just be applying to the department. You don't apply to like a national database or like a national program and then get selected for that school. You just apply directly through your school. And so then in between my third and fourth year, I actually took an entire year off of medical school to do this T32 experience. It was very basic science. I worked with mice. In a few words, I basically regrew the vestibular system in mice after it had been totally destroyed, which happens when you take some antibiotics. And so that's kind of the sum of what I did. But through this, I really learned, I did basic science research in undergrad. I then had this wonderful clinical research experience in vascular surgery. And then during my T32, I really wanted to make sure that doing basic science wasn't something that I really wanted to do. Did I want to go and get a PhD as well? And I decided that I was really more interested in clinical and translational research. I just felt that it made so much more sense to me, and I wanted to do more public health-based research. So then when I was applying for residency programs, since again, I knew I wanted to, I knew that I wanted to do research as part of my residency experience. Within the field of ENT, there are some residencies, there's about 10 in the country that have this special research track that I'm doing, where I get to spend 2 extra years during residency doing nothing but research. So I have no clinical duties at this time. I'm only completely doing research. So when I was applying for residency, that was a program that I really wanted to do. So I applied obviously to those 10 programs, as well as other ones that are, because usually ENT is 5 years total. So somehow now I'm a doctor, and I am a resident at this wonderful place in North Carolina. As I said, I have this extra 2 years of research, which I'm currently 6 months into. So I'm pretty, since we do it in between our intern year and our second year, I'm pretty new into this research experience. And during my intern year, I randomly stumbled across a TED Talk of a lady who did hearing loss research in Native Alaskans. And I thought, wow, that sounds awesome. And that's actually exactly what I want to do for the rest of my life. So I emailed her, and little known to me, she was 8 miles down the road at Duke. And she is now my primary T32 mentor. And so I will be spending the second year of my T32 up in Alaska, actually enrolling kids in a hearing loss study. So all that to say, you can still go to North Carolina and go back to your home state, which is 3,000 miles away, and it will all work out. Oh, and then the other part of this whole thing is that during my first year, as I said before, public health was something that was super interesting to me, and just something that I was really curious to learn more about. And it makes sense, since I want to do more population type studies, that I would get an MPH in addition to my MD. So I am currently enrolled, I'm a student again at UNC, getting my MPH right now. Okay, so that is, now you guys know my whole life story. You know how I got to the place that I am. So I wanted to, I just have 3 slides here at the end. When I was an undergrad, I remember when I was an undergrad and in medical school and in residency, I really struggled with imposter syndrome. I really struggled with anxiety around, oh my gosh, am I going to make it? I don't know. And so I really wanted to just reassure all of you that, like, you can do this. This is something that if I can do this is absolutely something that you can do as well. Things to stop worrying about. If neither of your parents are physicians, trust me, you can still become a physician. Or if neither of your parents are PhDs, you can still go get your PhD. Neither of my parents are physicians. And so when I was applying to medical school and applying for research things, I didn't have them to lean on for, oh, what if I do this? What if I do this? This next bullet's really important. This thought that my standardized exam scores define my self-worth. That's definitely not true. I took the MCAT twice because I did not do very well the first time that I took it. And then when you get to medical school, or if you're pre-med and you go to medical school, you'll take another set of standardized exams called your STEP scores, your USMLE, your USMLE STEP exams. So standardized exams really don't go away. So if you're like, oh yes, MCAT done, that's not true. So but all that to say, don't let them define you. Don't let them define your self-worth. There are so many other aspects to who you are as a person, and just don't forget that. I don't know where to start. I think you guys probably heard me say that at least 3 times, or I should have said that at least 3 times during my when I was telling you about how I got here. If you don't know where to start, just start by Googling, start by asking the person next to you, start by asking your friend, start by asking someone you really respect. Really just start by asking. If you don't know where to start, just know that that's okay. I had literally no idea what I was doing when I was in that C. elegans lab. And by the end, I got a poster out of it. So just hang in there and start by Googling. Also, definitely drop the idea that everyone else has their life together, because nobody does. Nobody has their life together, and everyone is just doing their best, and that's all that you can ask of yourself. Okay, so now that pep talk's over, so now here are some things I think to keep doing from here on out. Always ask for help. Never ever be afraid to just, even if you're halfway through the semester and you're like, I don't even understand what we did in week 1, just go to office hours, talk to the TA, talk to the professor. Definitely just ask for help. And then the next bullet, learn now how to say I don't know confidently, because there are going to be so many things that you do not know, and you have to learn that it is totally okay to say I don't know. I'll look it up, I'll go find the answer, but I don't know. When you're shadowing, when you're in a lab, when you are in class, and you get asked a question, don't be embarrassed. Say I don't know that, but I'll figure it out, I'll go look it up. And then also, do never stop working towards whatever it is that you want. I mean, when I was younger, I had this dream that I wanted to be a physician in Alaska, and I only in the last 6 months has that really come to crystallize as something that's actually a legitimate possibility for me. And I'm in North Carolina, which is quite possibly one of the furthest states away from Alaska. So just don't give up. Don't say, oh well, I'm in Texas and I really want to be in New York, or I am doing this but I really want to do this instead in the future. It's okay, just keep working towards it. You'll definitely get there. Okay, and then specific things for research. Remember that research is how we make things better. It is the process of, whenever people talk to me and they're like, I don't really like research, I always think that person probably doesn't really know what they're talking about, because research is how we make things better. And if you don't like research, it just means that you don't like to improve things, which I feel like is usually a natural human tendency. So I think approaching it from that mindset of, I want to help make things better. I want things to improve for those that come after me, or those in the community around me, or my patients. Really approaching it from that perspective, I think, is something that will get you very far. The second bullet is specific for this level of training for you while you're an undergrad. At this level, it is much more important to have a good mentor who is going to teach you how to do things, how to ask questions, how to problem solve. It is that at this stage of your training is so much more important than the type of project that you work on. I cannot emphasize this enough, that finding your dream project, but having a mentor who never responds to your emails, or never is there for you when you have questions, or you can't even get to edit the poster before the conference, it makes it pretty miserable. And so at this stage of your training, prioritize finding a mentor who is going to nurture you and really help build you up as a researcher. As you get further along in your training, definitely you can start refining your focus. And then I guess the other part of that thought is that the chance of you, the project that you do in undergrad being the project that you do for the rest of your life is like 0.001. There's very, very little chance that that is going to be the case. Okay, and then conversations about authorship. These are kind of uncomfortable conversations to have as an undergrad, but I think that having conversations about both expectations and authorship as early as possible is actually, it can only benefit you. So even during the first couple times that you meet with a potential mentor, asking, what does it look like for me to be a first author on a poster? What does it look like for me to be a first author on a paper? And then also, like, what are your expectations for me? Because I think it's really easy to just say, I want to be involved. This is what I want to do. And then you're like, well, do I show up on Monday at 6? Do I come for lab meetings? Do I do this? Ask what the expectations are of you. And if they're not clear, then clarify them up front. You can kind of get yourself into a messy situation if you don't know what the expectations are of you and someone else has some expectations that you don't know about. Okay, and then the last one, just because you did one type of research in the past does not mean you have to keep doing that. And the several examples of that in my life are basic science research versus clinical or translational. I did basic science research in undergrad. Does not mean that I was married and had to do that in medical school as well. But it also has to do with when I was between my first and second year, I did a ton of vascular surgery research. I have 4 vascular surgery papers published in really high-end journals, but I went into ENT. It doesn't, at this stage, it doesn't matter what the field is. Don't worry about, oh, well, if I want to go to medical school, biochemistry looks the best to do on a resume. It doesn't matter. At this point, you got to learn the basics. You got to learn the building blocks, and that will, they being the ever-present application committees will look on that as this person's taking initiative. This person knows the building blocks. This person knows how to problem solve and things like that. So don't get too wrapped up in, oh, well, I need to do this specific thing because this is what I think is best. You can always pivot later. You can always pivot. Ask me. So okay. That is honestly all I have for you guys. But I really wanted to open it up in case you guys had any questions about anything that I'm doing right now or have done in the past, or what medical school or residency is, or anything like that.
I don't know if this applies to you, but I was just wondering, did you ever take a gap year, or do you know what people should do whenever they do take gap years?
Yes, I'm actually a huge proponent of gap years after undergrad. I think that a lot of, so when in Seattle at UW, I was easily the youngest person in my medical school. There's 2 of us who came straight from undergrad, and everybody else at that school took at least a year off. And I think that you should use that time to explore other aspects of the world outside of medicine, because I will say that there are a lot of other ways to help people without going to medical school. Medical school is a huge undertaking, and as someone who is now, a decade later, still in school, still not making real money. Still, I mean, I make a salary, but I make about $60,000 a year, and I have friends who make 6 figures a year already. That's okay, and I'm okay with that. I'm just telling you that throughout your 20s, you you will be in school, you will have a huge amount of debt, and you will be working really hard hours during residency as well. So I think that taking a gap year to explore other parts of medicine, if you're like, I'm not sure, or even if you're super sure that you want to be a physician and you want to explore just something else entirely, I think you should go do that.
Thank you.
Mhm. Oh, hold on. There's something in the chat. Oh, my favorite burst memory. There's so many. Oh my gosh, I just have like the best memories of hanging out with all of the officers. I have to say though, I think my favorite memory overall was our first event, because I think we all thought, oh, I don't know, maybe 20 people will come, maybe 50 if we're, and there's like 300 people there. It was insane. I've never seen anything like that. And I remember just being so blown away and being like, wow, there is a need for this. That community did not exist and we created it. We did it. So I think that's definitely my favorite first memory. What am I most looking forward to during my residency? Aside from moving back to Alaska next year, I think that's definitely something that I'm looking forward to. I think I'm excited to be in a place where I mean, this is a goal obviously that I've been working towards for a really long time, to be training as a leader and training as a surgeon and training as someone who can walk into a room and make decisions because of my area of expertise. I think that whole experience is something that I've really just been looking forward to for a while.
You mentioned that you're getting your MPH right now. Looking back, would you have gotten it maybe sooner, like during a gap year, or are you happy with like your timeline getting your MPH?
I think that's a great question. I've thought about this a lot actually, if it works out. I think mostly from being a student perspective, I probably would have gotten it during medical school. This is going to sound like a concept that is very foreign to everyone in this room, but so after second year of med school, you're pretty much done sitting at a desk, taking notes and taking tests. Your stuff, all of your like you just go into your clinical rotations, and so you're no longer basically you're no longer like a student in the most classic sense. So then 4 years later, I went back to school to get my master's, and I had like nearly forgotten how to be a student and like study for tests and take notes and things like that. I think, all jokes aside, I think from a timing perspective, I probably would have gotten it as a medical student. But remember that when I was in medical school, I didn't know that I wanted to, I thought public health research was interesting, but I didn't know that I wanted to do it. So there's, how did you find your mentor during your undergrad years, and what did you look for in mentors in your search? Okay, so I started working with Dr. Lee during my sophomore year, and this was after cold emailing a lot of people and saying, hey, I'm super interested in research. This is something that I really want to do. I read this paper that your lab produced, and I thought it was interesting. And so then I met with him, and then he said, okay, show up on Monday and we'll get you started. I think what to look for in a mentor, first of all, just the the speed at which they email you back in general, I think is important. And then just when you're asking questions on your first day, when you're even just talking with them, how do they talk to you? How do they treat your questions? Do you feel like, oh, maybe I should already know this? Because if that's the sense that you're getting right off the bat, I would say it's probably a no-go. So does that help? I guess what else do I look for mentors? I also looked and make sure that they have PhDs or master's students in their lab, because if they don't have any, then a majority of the work will fall on you, and you might get asked to do things that are not really necessarily fruitful for your education, and you also will not have anyone that you can really lean on. So, okay, how do you stay motivated and committed to such a long journey? This is also a great question because my residency program is going to be 7 years long, and that's 7 years after medical school. So I did 4 years of undergrad and then 5 years of medical school, because I did that extra T32 year in the middle, and then 7 years of undergrad, or 7 years of residency. This is something that my end goal of going back to Alaska is something that has driven me, has given me a lot of fire underneath everything that I do. I really want to give back to that community that raised me. I really want to go back there, and I mean, Native Alaskans have a hearing loss prevalence of around 30%. And in the general US population, it's around 3%. There's a huge need for this type of research to be done. And that is something that has really driven me along the way of there is a huge need and I want to fill it. This is the reason I went into medicine. I wanted to give back to my Alaska community. I wanted to go back and help out. On a day-to-day basis, I totally, like, there are some days where I'm like, I'm taking the day off and I'm just going to watch Netflix all day. Don't worry, I literally do that. That's all the time. It's not a problem. But I think really having that long-term end goal. And then I guess the other thing is that I have an amazing network of friends who are always there for me to lean on and will support me. And again, I text Jaden and Taylor. We were in a group chat that we have been in for the last 6, 7, 8 years, that is always going. Like I text them continuously throughout the day, all day, just to talk. So you gotta have your own community. You gotta have your own support network. So okay, what does social life look like in medical school? This is such an important question because this is something that I think is easily overlooked. And I am someone I am very aggressive about having a great social life and having a great, I'm very outdoorsy. I love to ski. I run ultra marathons. I mountain bike all the time. I do this all during residency. And during medical school, I prioritized taking weekends off. I'm a huge proponent of taking weekends off. I got all of my work done during the week, and I took nearly every weekend off in medical school, so that I could go skiing, running, mountain biking, climbing, something like that, with all of these people, aforementioned people, this great friend network that I have. And I think for me, I noticed this among my current coworkers, my other people in medical school. To be honest, I prioritized it, and that's how I made it happen. Is I said, not only do I want to be a great doctor, but I also at the end of my 20s, I also still want to be able to enjoy all of these things that I love so much, because I love skiing and I love running and I love mountain biking. And so I think prioritizing it and saying I'm going to just make time to do it. And then the same thing for me during residency. During my intern year, so we get 4 weeks of vacation a year. it was like in June, I was planning trips in December and January and February because I knew that I wanted to ski with my friends. And I coordinated all of my med school friends so that we had the same vacation and we could all go take these trips together. So I'm really glad someone asked this because I will very emphatically say that if you prioritize it, you can definitely do it and make it happen. Okay. During your time at Baylor, would you say that there was a defining moment towards your goal of being a physician? I don't know that there was a specific moment. I knew that I wanted to be a physician. I guess during high school, I thought I wanted to be a veterinarian because I was super into the horses. But then after doing some shadowing, I guess that was maybe my defining moment, was after doing some shadowing and saying, I really love communicating with people. I really love being able to talk to my patients. That I decided to go to medical school instead. But I don't know that I ever really had I for sure, like after this exact thing, I really want to be a physician. I didn't really have that until honestly my third year of med school. I got to med school during third years when you do all your clinicals, and being able to sit down and talk to a patient, talk with them about their most recent diagnosis, and working with them on a plan on how they can stick to that plan was the literal most affirming moment of my life when I said, this is exactly what I want to do. I know I'm in the right career field. So. Okay, there's more. What do you think were the biggest surprises or adjustments when you entered medical school compared to your experience at Baylor? First of all, I do have to say that Baylor prepared me very well for first year of med school classes, because first year of med school is biochemistry and genetics and all these very, and anatomy, obviously, and all of these basic science level classes. And I was extremely well prepared for the biochemistry class in medical school. I was actually very impressed. And I'm just using that based on compared to my classmates. I felt that I had a very good handle on the information compared to other people who had degrees in biochemistry, and I'm no smarter than them, trust me. I'm by no means like a savant or a super intelligent person. I just work very hard, I think. And so I'm giving you that context. But I think to be totally honest, I think, and I already talked about this a little bit, was the biggest surprise for me was the age difference in everyone. I kind of had this thought that everyone went straight from undergrad to medical school. And that's not the case. A lot of people take time off. A lot of people do other things and then go back to medical school. Anything else? All right, guys, that's all I got for you. If you have any other questions or anything else comes up, or I don't know, you just want to talk about life, I'm pretty sure one of the officers can get you my email, because yeah, I'm happy to talk at any point, trust me.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kelli,
Yeah.
for being here. Really appreciate it, and really appreciate all the advice you shared.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen and we can show you the sign up form. Okay, so don't forget to connect with us on our social media and our website so that you can keep track of all of the burst events. A recording of this general meeting will be posted on our YouTube, so if you have any friends who weren't able to attend, definitely tell them to check it out. And that's all. Thank you guys for attending this general meeting. You can scan this QR code so you can get a point for attending. And you can stick around for our post-meeting social right after this. Akshat is going to be going over some verse trivia and history for the Jeopardy game. So definitely stick around for that.